morning. Welcome to the Alpha Female Lounge and Asake Online, your weekly dose of all things female. My name is Pamela Mpofu and I am your host. Today on the show, we're going to be discussing the importance of young women's participation in the 2023 elections, as well as politics in general. We're also going to be discussing some of the issues that young women in the Matabeleland region, those living with disabilities, are facing with the voter registration process. And today on the show, I have bubbly Tariro as my guest, who is going to be talking to me more about these issues. She is a podcaster and a disability rights activist. Tariro, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. You look very beautiful today.
Thank you.
Okay, so young women are faced with quite a number of challenges. And what do you think women's participation in the upcoming elections would mean for our generation of women?
Let's just look at the by-elections that are happening right now. We have over 100 and something candidates, but we only have 20-something women. And having those 20-something women, we also have a lack of young women representation. So there's a gap. There's a very huge gap where we are saying, where are we going as a country? This is a highlight of what 2023 could be. Because these by-elections are a reflection of our future. So young women are not taking up leadership positions. Young women are not really participating in politics, whether in parties or independently. So my worry is this is the reflection of what could happen in 2023.
Okay, with what you just said, as a young woman living in the Matabeleland region, what do you think are some of the factors that are hindering young women from participating in politics?
From Matabeleland, we already know that we're marginalized. So the economic factors that we have, they make sure they're hindrance. So how can I be a leader when I don't have the resources? Remember, when I have to go campaign, I have to make sure that I am loud and proud, or I am very loud, which means that I need posters, I need campaign strategies, I need this, I need to pay people. So if I don't have the money, who will do that? So that's an economic barrier. And then there's a social cohesion that happens when you're young and you want to go into politics. Family, cultural norms. Culturally, why do you want to be in politics? The history of our country is very, very bad when it comes to politics, women in politics, name calling and all that. So your family can be the huge wall into you doubting yourself that you can be a leader.
So from a gender perspective, the Zimbabwean politics is very toxic and polarized when it comes to women. What do you think is key to creating a healthier environment for women in politics?
For me, it's about the policies that the political parties have when it comes to representation. So when you sit down and draft policies as a country, or not as a country rather, but as a political party into your representation. So this means if you're saying we're going to have 50 women and we're going to have 50 men, 50% of female candidates and then 50% of men. Can we make sure that we have also a 25% of young women and a 25% of young men? But above all, remember, I'm a person with a disability. For me, the 10% that we constitute in our country, make sure that it's also in your policies. But we have an issue that we are in a problem with as a country, a PR, proportional representation, where we have normalized not going, I call it 9-9, with our male counterparts, where we would want to go the easy way out to say, I'm going to contest, but under the PR. But when you're under PR, I remember you don't have a constituency in the parliament. So when how do you debate? Who do you represent? So I remember one time, one woman was told, I want a constituency. You don't have a constituency. Can you sit down? So you are subject to abuse also in parliament. So these are the issues that we are saying as women. Let's do away with the PR and go like straight up against the men, money or not. Declare your candidacy now.
Okay, so do you believe that the end of the quota system was a good thing, so that women can just go in there like the men and contest?
It actually didn't end. 2023 we have it. Remember the amendment bill number 2.
Yes, I'm saying the 10-year term that was put. Yes. Do you think we should look at maybe renewing for another 10 years, or we should just leave it as it is?
No, I wouldn't recommend us renewing it. But well, we already have that bill that was done. We can't really do anything when it comes to bills in Zimbabwe. But I would recommend people to fight that, because when someone gives you something on a silver platter, they can easily take it away. So your voice is limited in terms of what you represent, what you speak for, what you go for in parliament, who you represent. So you don't have the power to tell the minister that women don't have pads. Yeah. In fact, there was money that was given for pads, but what did they buy? Panty liners.
Yeah.
Do you see this? This is a procurement issue where if we had women that were not under PR, they would voice critique. How do you do it? How did you come out panty liners instead of the pads, where we know there's period poverty, where we know there's a cycle of women that can afford pads?
So you believe that most of these mechanisms are not assisting women, but they're making women look rather weak.
Exactly.
When it comes to bail.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we've seen over the past few years, you touched on this earlier when you started, that women are ridiculed in politics. The history is not looking good at all. How do you think we as young women can just fight our way into such a space, but at the same time trying to make it a space that is safe for other girls who would want to move into political spaces?
I think like you said, our politics is very toxic. It being toxic, it means that you go in with the toxicity. So if they're going to call you name calling and they're going to tell you you can't do it, I think we as young people, let's support each other, young women especially. Let's support each other and say, we are going to go. We constitute the biggest number in the country, 64% or something like that. Yes. So, which means even the supporters, the people in leadership are not young people, young women. Why? There's a problem. There's a problem. So, but whether they name call you, I think we have had women that have paved the way. Yes. Over the past, 25 years or so, that you hear being name called, this and that, but they're still there in parliament. They're saying, we don't care what you call us. We're here to speak for women. We're here to represent women. We're here to make sure that in politics, women are represented. So whether young people want to come in with or without resources, they should jump in.
Okay, so do you believe that maybe some of these, attitudes and behaviors that men have towards women, especially in parliament, also stem from gender inequality issues?
Yeah, definitely. There's a gender inequality movement where, where we were saying, it being a Women's Month also. I think this is the time where we are saying we're going into by-elections, but also this is fertile ground for young women to declare their candidacy, because we wait for 2-3 months before elections to try and pitizela and say we want to do this. Show interest, be in a community, do the things that make sure that you're visible, because people don't just wake up and be politicians. Do what you gotta do in your community, because today if I was to be voted in, what have I done for my community? Have I even attended the slightest community meeting at the community hall? If not, what are you doing in politics? So this is what we're saying. Can young women come out and do what's right for their communities? If it means mobilization for, campaigns, if it means register to vote campaigns, if it means just the smallest things that make you visible in the community, for me, that would be do. So the inequality part comes in us not having the things that would make us be there, not being employed. Plays a critical role. You are a graduate, you're not employed, and these are the things. Where do you get the money? So that your family would definitely tell you, sit down. We can't be wasting the little resources that we have for your probably a failed campaign. So we need to believe in ourselves as young people. We need to believe in ourselves as young women. We need to believe in ourselves as people with disabilities, by the way, to say we need an equal representation, a voice that's going to move motions, debate motions, and back our nose in bills, because clearly we don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers. We get our health bills that affect us women debated by men because we don't have the numbers. Do you get it? We get the youth, people that are not the youth, sitting in a youth committee debating our issues. We don't have the numbers, yet we constitute the bigger number in the country. So we need to come up and say, we're going to do this and fight for our space, really, as young women.
Okay, I hear you're saying we fight for our space, but from what you've observed from young women around you, the youth, do you believe they understand the intensity of what it means? Like you're saying, our rights are being debated for by men, older men who don't understand what we go through on a daily basis. Do you think young women understand the intensity of the upcoming elections and other elections in general?
It's a yes or no. So the yes part is we've had campaigns of register to vote. We've had campaigns of mobilizing people to register to vote and all that. And we also had the Blitz voter registration. So this was a time for people to just highlight what we are going through, where we are going in terms of elections and all that. But I think we still have a no, where even young people say, why would they vote? Why would they register to vote? Some don't have IDs in town, by the way. Some don't have IDs. We are a marginalized community already. But in town, there are people that have written O levels. This means 2-3 years ago. And they don't have IDs because the government has said COVID and all that. So we still lack the numbers. We still lack the numbers. So they don't, as much as they see the intensity, they don't have the zeal. So they'll tell you, we've seen in 2008, things didn't go our way. We've seen in 2002, things didn't go our way. But I always encourage people that we are the voice. Young people, we are the voice. Young women, we are the voice. In us constituting the bigger number, we are still the voice. So let's go out there and play our part. So if it means registering to vote, if it means playing a key role in supporting other young women that are that want to be in the political space, let's gather around and stop the notion that we don't support each other, that we pull each other down. So when a young person or a young woman says, I want to be there, don't look at the political party. Look at what they're going to do for you as a young person, the voice that we need. We have the numbers outside Parliament, but we can still have the numbers in Parliament in 2023. So the intensity is there, but let's also encourage people to look beyond the political sphere to say you can be the voice of young people and young women.
Okay, which is very true. So in line with trying to promote young women's participation in politics, the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, in partnership with the UN, came up with a Women Rise in Politics mentorship program. Do you believe this program is being effective right now as you speak in gearing up for the elections?
I don't really know if I've seen people that were part of that RIP program coming out and saying, we are part of the mentorship that happened. This is where also the problem. There are a lot of mentorship programs that are happening, but do really people go there to be mentored for the future? Because I haven't seen anyone. If they are doing, if they are doing that, I haven't seen them speaking on the journey that they've been part of that program. But maybe in 2023 they're just laying low, probably. So we hope that they come out and say we've been part of this mentorship program and we're going to be part of the elections in 2023.
So you feel like in terms of the visibility, we haven't seen anything from them?
Have you?
Not really.
Exactly. That's my point. Because when you go through a UN thing, UN is a powerful platform.
Yes.
So you could be taking them and saying, I spent like 3 days in a hotel doing this, and that. But I haven't seen that. I've seen a few years. But then after that, what happens? So we need people to really go for mentorship and come out and say, we're going to do this and do this right for the fellow young women and be the voice.
Okay, if you're just tuning in, this is the Alpha Female Lounge and that's like online, and I am with Tariro. We are discussing the issue of women's participation in the upcoming 2023 elections, and we have been talking about how important it is for young women to participate in the elections and in politics in general. We're now going to be touching a bit on how young women living with disabilities in this region are finding it hard with the voter registration process as well as penetrating the political space. So now, being a young woman on its own is a dilemma. But we understand that young women living with disabilities face a bit more problems than other young women. What are some of the challenges that are being faced by young women with disabilities when it comes to the voter registration process?
Okay. I think the challenge also is just access. Access to everything, to health, to information, to the things that we need. So, for example, if I say I wanted to be a politician, yes, and contest in 2023 with my fellow deaf or hearing impairment colleague, would there be sign language interpretation to the campaigns? Would there be ramps to where we go with public buildings, the council, these other things? So We are fighting a system that doesn't recognize the importance of accessibility. We are fighting a system that doesn't recognize the importance of people with disabilities. They only recognize us when it's time for elections. So, for example, you know that we constitute 18% of the population. That's a lot.
A very big number.
A very big number. So they know that they can have that number in elections. But when someone is coming to campaign and say, we're going to put ramps, we're going to put braille, we're going to put this, can they do that and stop playing with people's feelings? Because we take seriously accessibility. We take seriously how we want to live independently. So for me, it's about the barrier that the community or the society gives. So even political parties, I've never seen representation in council. Awula mdole disability in council. In parliament, I'm not sure. But there's one MP who usually debates issues of people with disabilities. They don't have a disability themselves, meaning we don't have a voice. We have, in Senate, we have 2 senators. Actually, we have 1 because the one passed on last year. So we have 1. There's no voice. Yet we constitute the 10 to 13%. So for me, it's the barrier is let's shun away from looking at disabilities and look at what people with disabilities can bring to the table. The ability, the power to mobilize, the power to lead, the power to have certain things done their way, but only when we take their issues seriously. Our issues matter. Disability rights are human rights for me.
Very much. Do you think that maybe we could have a certain provisions that allow, because the fact that you don't have presentation in Parliament and you're a young woman as well, that means you have a lot of needs that you need someone who knows the experiences to be able to represent you. Do you believe that maybe if we had a certain provision in Parliament to say this number of seats is reserved for young women with disabilities?
Yeah, maybe that would work. But remember what I said, when you have something reserved for you, you don't have a voice. And I don't want people not having a voice when they represent people with disabilities. They need to voice for their rights. They need to voice for accessibility. They need to voice for social nets. They need to voice for their social welfare. So if you reserve something for me, you can just take me out quickly. So for me, don't give me things on a silver platter. Let me prove my words. Let me prove that I can do this and do this right.
I love your energy around that part. As we gear up for the 2023 elections, and we are seeing that, election campaigns are getting intensified and stuff. What are some of the key steps that you believe that need to be taken to encourage and push young women with disabilities and without disabilities to register to vote and take their space in politics?
Politicians need to play a key role in mobilizing their people in their constituencies. Go to door. Do you have an 18-year-old? Do they have an ID? Guys, let's go and register to vote. That's how you mobilize. Do the groundwork. And also maybe organizations that work with people with disabilities can also just mobilize and make sure that people with disabilities are registered to vote. And maybe we can have a provision also in political parties where policies say, at least let's have 1 disabled candidate. In council, in parliament, that would make me feel good for the rest of my life to say, okay, even if they have the equal voice, at least we have 1 voice. So they need to push for people with disabilities to at least 1 in every council, in parliament. Senate, yeah, maybe.
Okay. Anything else that you would like to say as someone else maybe out there is watching and thinking, I have the potential, but because I'm a woman and I feel like I don't have the strength or ability to be in Parliament or in politics in general?
For me, is go for the things that you go for. Go right, go strong, and represent yourself.
Which is very short and precise. It's nothing long. Thank you so much, Tariro, for coming on to the show to talk with us. We really had a good session here today. And I hope that all other young women who are watching this learned a lot as well, because I surely did. You guys have been watching the Alpha Female Lounge on Asake Online, the show where we discuss the issues that affect young women in the Matabeleland region. As you heard Tariro say that you have to make the right thing. Go forward and go for it, whatever it is that you're aiming for, particularly as we gear up for the 2023 elections. Don't be left out. Make your vote count. You can also engage with us on our social media platforms at Site ZW on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. Tariro, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for having me.
It was a pleasure. Until next week, from me and the crew behind the scenes, goodbye.